On page 6, we're going to incorporate parallel and perpendicular lines into our current work. So the first thing we're going to do is go back and review what parallel and perpendicular lines are. So first of all, I am going to talk about parallel lines. So I'm going to go up to the top here and I'm going to draw a set of parallel lines. Okay, so maybe, let's see, maybe here's the first line. All right, that's good. And then here comes the second line. I'll put it in red. Okay, so these are parallel lines. And basically what parallel lines are is they never intersect. Okay, and for that reason, since they never intersect, if you look closely at them, if you examine this blue line and the red line, they have the same steepness. Okay, so basically if we're saying that, line 1 or the blue line has slope m1 and then the red line has slope m2, then their slopes are going to equal. Okay, so m1 should equal m2. Okay, so that's a really important fact about parallel lines. Okay, they have the same slope. All right, so that is basically what I have written under the description for parallel lines. It says two distinct non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if their slopes are equal. Okay, that is m1 is equal to m2. Also, any two vertical lines are parallel. Okay, so perpendicular. Okay, what's up with perpendicular? Well, perpendicular lines are going to cross. So let me write that down. So perpendicular lines cross. Now, you've got to be careful here because I'm going to draw a pair of lines that cross. Okay, so here we go. Let's say this is the first line. And then here's the second line. Okay, so these are two different lines and they intersect. Okay, but these guys are not perpendicular. Okay, so I'm going to write this down. Not perpendicular. Okay, so we need to be more specific here. When these guys intersect, they have to intersect at 90-degree angles. Okay, so now if I go down here and I redraw the two lines, so let's say this is the first line, and then I'll come in and draw the second line. Okay, like that. Okay, so in this case, when they cross, they form 90-degree angles. Okay, so when your lines look like this, they intersect at right angles or 90-degree angles, then we can go ahead and say that this is a pair of perpendicular lines. Oops, I can't even spell. Let me try that again. Okay, so these are perpendicular. Okay, all right, so if we go read under the description here, because we need to know how the slopes are related. Okay, we know if we have parallel lines, their slopes are the same, but what about perpendicular lines? So under perpendicular lines, it says two non-vertical lines are perpendicular if and only their slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. Okay, that means take the reciprocal of the first slope and change the sign. So that is m1 is equal to -1 over m2. Also, a horizontal line, which is slope 0, is perpendicular to a vertical line, which has no slope. Okay, so here's what you need to remember about perpendicular lines. Okay, so if you have perpendicular lines, their slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. Okay, so reciprocal means do the flip, and what I mean by opposite, the sign changes. So if you start off with something negative, its sign is going to change to positive. If you start off with something positive, it's going to change to negative. All right, so let me see here. I'm kind of running out of room here. So let me do a couple of like simple numerical examples here. So say we have line 1 has slope, let's say, okay, I'm thinking, I don't know why it's so hard to come up with a fraction. Okay, so let's say we have line 1 and its slope is 2/5. Okay, so then if you're going to form the perpendicular slope, and this is how you write it, I'm going to erase, let's just call this m equals 2/5. The way we would notate the perpendicular slope is we would put m with this like upside down t. Okay, so the perpendicular slope, what you're going to do, you're going to take your fraction and you're going to flip it to 5/2. Okay, and then you're going to change the sign. We started with a positive slope, so the perpendicular slope is going to be negative. Okay, let me do another one here. Let's see here. Let's erase this. Let's call this example 1. And then over here, I'll do another one. Let's go to example 2. Let's say we started with a slope of -6. Okay, what would be the perpendicular slope? Okay, so I'm trying to find m perpendicular. So remember, the -6 does not appear to be a fraction, but you can make anything a fraction by putting it over 1. So you're going to have to find the reciprocal. You're going to have to flip the fraction. So 6/1 would flip to 1/6. Okay, and then you would change the sign. You started with something negative, so the perpendicular slope would be positive 1/6. Okay, so going forward, these are the characteristics you need to remember about parallel and perpendicular lines. If you are dealing with a pair of parallel lines, they do not intersect at all. So therefore, they have the same slope. Perpendicular lines, they cross, they intersect at 90-degree angles. If you have a pair of lines that intersect but do not form 90-degree angles when they intersect, they are not perpendicular. And the biggie, how are the slopes of perpendicular lines related? Well, their slopes are opposite reciprocals.